inviting me also to be member of the guests. And of course I'm not in the scope of, maybe not absolutely in the scope of the session, because I'm a geophysicist. I worked all my life for the monument protection in Bavaria and was responsible for archaeological prospecting, aerial photography and geophysical prospecting. And beside this I worked at the university and did a lot of projects worldwide. And one of the main projects of the last 10 years took place in Georgia. We started, first of all, in Azerbaijan. The project was called, it was in cooperation, of course, with Azerbaijan archaeologist Ivane together with Florian Knaus. And then we moved to Georgia in the framework of the archaeological project, research project, which was called Paradises in the Caucasus. And so I start first with our work in Karachandeli. Florian Knaus excavated there since 2003, or maybe earlier, but he focused only or mainly on the palace, which was quite visible from the topography, because it was a mound where he excavated, but then he asked me already to do some survey on the site to discover the environment of the area. As we know, we know very little about Achaemenids, because their inscriptions are mainly based on administrative matters, and the history of the Achaemenids is probably written by the Greek. So we started in Karachandeli to make a large aerial survey around the site of Karachandeli, and this is in Azerbaijan here. And first, okay. Okay. First, the site of Karachandeli,
sure.
Yeah, techniques and geophysics is and geophysicist. Yeah. I saw the red button is the no. Is the laser pointer? Okay. So the main palace of
that's the mute button. You're pressing the mute button, which takes the screen away.
This is not the.
There's another button.
Okay, I can use it. Yes. So I use the finally this is the red. That's what I use. So here's the palace, and we surveyed, first of all, the archaeologists surveyed all the area for pottery to find out the concentration of pottery shards. The area is 2 by 2 kilometers, so it's a large site for geophysics to do detailed prospecting. So the Tangut found out some spots where we found a lot of pottery, which doesn't mean immediately that there is a finding, because we know very well that due to erosion there could be also an enhancement of pottery, and we will not find anything because everything is already gone except the pottery. Anyhow, for this purpose, we prospected the whole area, a short introduction to the instruments we used. We used magnetometers, different kinds of magnetometers. I don't go too much in detail, but for this large aerial survey, it is useful to start first with magnetometry because it's the cheapest, the quickest, and the most successful method so far in geophysics. Special use, of course, for radar prospecting, if you have special questions, or resistivity prospecting here on the right side, which was used to get the information about the depth of features. Anyhow, these are the most successful instruments we use in the cesium magnetometers. For those, I think there are no physicists here in the room. It measures 50,000 parts per million of the Earth's magnetic field. So to have an idea, the strength of the Earth's magnetic field, which puts the needle to the north, divided by 50 millions, this is the sensitivity of these instruments. It's a field instrument. It's not a laboratory instrument where you can measure even more sensitive. Anyhow, so you get the tiniest little deviation of the magnetic field on top of the ground, and by this you look into the ground. Yeah, so we covered at least an area of nearly more than 1 square kilometer in the high resolution magnetic prospecting, walking by foot because everything else is magnetic and it should be non-magnetic. And at least we discovered the enclosure wall around Karachamani. Of course, the main part was already excavated, and we discovered further spots of buildings which are far outside, but were still Iron Age period. So more detail, so that the inner part is this. Here's the palace. We measured the enclosure wall, the entrance. This one was already excavated. This was not known so far. And of course, it should be on this side, but we discovered it here in the data. So that was the most important finding. We found also some previous features which belong to the working to the erection of this building for the Archean period. So all this area, this garden area, we found a lot of water springs which are used to irrigate the garden. So it was really a paradise area in this field. So these are the results of Florian Knaus, Bittner and Haschner, and excavations. Finally, of course, before we could measure that area. Then later in our project, we continued. We started 2013, and then we continued in 2017. We started to go to Georgia. Also good food and something to drink, good wine, and we concentrated on first of all on the area of Gumbati, which was known, was excavated in 1994 by Gagoshitze, Knaus, Burgundler, and so on. But the location was not very well known since we came back in 2018. We went on the site and we found also a lot of Iron Age areas which we measured, Nasalevi, Maxam-Reklo, Digigora, Nuakevis-Gora, and others, which were also Iron Age period, but doesn't probably belong to the Archean period. The only place we know at that time was Gumbati, here located near to Sinyachi, is here in Snori, and finally try to recover the remains which was not excavated so far, but the result was somehow disappointing. So this is our measurement around Gumbati. Kankanyu did a lot of survey in the surrounding of this area, but the magnetogram here is, by the way, an old satellite image from Yandex, showing the excavation, and this satellite image helps us to recover the location of the exact place for the excavation of 1994. When we came back in Yulon, Gagoshitze didn't remember right the place where it excavated. Finally we found it, and we were sure that this is the place. our measurement. Again. So this is the result of our measurement, and it was almost boring. You see a lot of, sorry. I don't know why we, okay. We see a lot of spikes there, a lot of iron pieces which affect our magnetogram, but no really good traces of archaeological features. We see some ditches here in the southwest. I don't want to press too much here. Yeah, here which look rather Iron Age origin, but doesn't show any clear traces of Achaemenid architecture, as we expected from the literature. And yeah, also here, Naomi Tepe is the site of Umbati name. We found a lot of pottery. Archaeologists traced it, the spots of pottery spreading on the area. However, there was no architecture beneath it. And the reason was also that this new farmer here, they constructed a fish pond, and they removed all the subsoil, and then of course you find a lot of pottery, but all the archaeology was destroyed already. Then after excavations or re-excavation also it was somehow a little boring for our archaeologists, and finally we stopped the excavation, and one of the workers, he told us, I know, I could show you something in the garden of a farmer. And we went with him. This is a worker who showed us this column base from really Achaemenid origin. And we asked him, yes, maybe you can tell us the place, where did you find it? And he said, okay, it cost extra, but I can show you. And he showed us the field, and it was already the end of the campaign 2019, where we immediately took out our magnetometer and started the measurement. Here when we come on the field, we saw already some pieces of limestone, which indicate that this was probably the right place. This is how it looks like when we arrived. We packed out our magnetometer, and even we spotted so that the location is here is Gumbati here, and here is the place we measured now. We could find it by satellite images, but the satellite image was from a later day when we were there. Anyhow, so this is how it looks now in the satellite image. This is our grid we set up in the first moment, and the result was really impressive. We see at least clear rectangular features and of a massive building. You see the size is at least here 20 by 20 meter, and even not everything is shown up in the magnetogram. It's mainly depicted the features which are heavily burnt. That's why they show up as a high magnetic anomaly very clearly. And then next it was we saw in the satellite image that there must be more, and we continued started the time of Corona pandemic. So we were lucky as Germans. We were the only foreigners who were allowed to go to Georgia. And we took the advantage to go there and continue our magnetometer survey. And the situation of the ground was terrible, really terrible. We see this crazy plowed field, and this my students who did a great job to work on the side with the magnetometer to carry this instrument, which weighs about 15 kilo, clearly across the ground. But the result was really fascinating. So we found a huge complex, which shows not the landscape of the moon, but when you look a little bit closer, and if you have some ideas about the magnetic properties of the material, you can clearly draw a ground map of it. So we try to process it in different ways to find out the best solution, and finally we came up with this map of which is clearly indicating an archaeological and probably archaeological site. Moreover, since we know that the column bases come from this place. So we see some water installations marked in blue here, and some building complexes and a clear layout. But we could not find really clear parallels to the architecture of the original Achaemenid Empire. Nevertheless, so this is the resulting work of geophysics, and finally you see we found some more monumental buildings which are so far not ever touched by archaeologists. Kalkanit started excavation here on this house, which is a little bit shifted in the orientation in comparison to the others. Nevertheless, furthermore, we did also resistivity prospecting to get an idea how deep are the features still preserved. And this is the result of the resistivity survey. We make a 3D analysis of this building, and finally, after the excavation, we see very clearly a huge hall with columns inside. And by the way, as we saw yesterday in the excursion, this little podium, which we call this altar, we found such a base here inside of this. And I don't know if it was really, so far it's not clear what it was, since the whole area inside was almost empty. There were no findings there. So it was burned down, collapsed, and that's why it showed up very clearly in the magnetogram. So these are pictures of the excavation there. And here, by the way, also to find out why don't we see the traces of the mud brick walls. When we clearly analyzed the magnetic material of the minerals, we saw we have a deep trench here in this part, and we made a profile of 1.5 meters, a depth profile, and we measured the magnetic susceptibility of the material, which gives us an idea about the magnetization. And then we see that this part is a fossil horizon, so this was the original ground floor, but the mud bricks walls were made obviously of this material which was extracted from the east. And so you have almost no magnetic contrast between the mud bricks and the deeper ground, and that's why we show in the magnetogram mainly the parts which are heavily burned. By a burning process you produce magnetic minerals, and this makes it very magnetic. Very magnetic is not in the sense of technical, it's some nanotesla ideas, and you know the Earth's magnetic field is 50,000 nanotesla. So this is when we call it something very magnetic. Yeah, so here is the deep trench just to understand the features and to understand also the interpretation later on when we enlarge our interpretation to the further area which was so far not excavated. Yeah, finally, this is the ground map based on geophysics in red. This is the result of the resistivity prospecting. We found some additional walls which were not visible in the excavation. This happens also, we call it ghost features. That happens very often, that we clearly identify some features which are physically different from the next area, but which could not be recognized in the excavation, which is clear when you think the color of the soil is based on iron oxides, and the iron oxides amount we measured is very, very small. It exceeds much in times of 10 to the 1 to 1,000 the sensitivity of chemical analysis. So it's clear that you sometimes you cannot see it by your eye, but you see it with magnetic eye. And this could be the case here. We don't know what to do with it. We didn't excavate it, but we measured it. Nevertheless, finally, for the interpretation, it could be important to know that there could be some feature which was not recognized during the excavation. Yeah, finally, this is the map from Cambodia and his colleagues. And then here's some pictures of the column bases we found there. They are all now in the Museum of Sidnachi. Yeah. So here finally the complete layout. You see here these very strong magnetic anomalies. They are due to the pipeline which was erected in the Soviet period. These long traces are due to the water pipeline, which is very deep. And these areas are the places where the canal goes up and has a huge top decal.
Thank you very much for the contribution.
Yeah, I just. Sorry. The other sites we measured, Idigora and Uwakili, just in short. We had a much better condition here on this area. You see the towns were much flat. But it was an Iron Age site, and the hill is already very much disturbed by the plowing, and each year it loses a lot of centimeters of the top since the farmers do some deep plowing. And what we see here is just a composition of different layers of Iron Age settlement, and even if there were some Achaemenid settlement on top of it, probably they are already gone due to deep plowing. And this is the final geophysical interpretation, and there were also some excavation and some pottery and obsidian analysis of it. And finally, we have also the documentation of these Iron Age hill forts. I don't continue now. This is one of our examples. We have also here a short excavation to get an idea about the stratigraphy. But this is finally the result, and I want to show up. Thank you very much for your attention. This is the team of Azerbaijan. I think Yulan is still alive here and present. This is Kalkamil and French colleague, specialist on Archibald. I forgot his name. Sorry. And here is the team of Bombati and Saklemo with Yulan, Javakhishvili, and members of the National Museum of the Tbilisi Museum. And thank you very much to all the members which took part of the project since 2013. Thank you.